Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, and welcome to Across the Pitch EFL League One / Accrington Stanley review / preview show. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm here with Tony Robinson. And after 3 weeks of not having any Accrington to talk about, we have a whole lot of Accrington to talk about today, and I know you're excited about that because I am.
Yeah, it's nice to see them back on Saturday. And like you say, we're combining quite a few episodes into one with the matches coming fast now. And as we say, we've got the Plymouth and Portsmouth should be a belter this afternoon, Stanley, and the two makeup games tomorrow, which we'll touch on later. But yes, a good weekend. For a few teams in League One, especially our Stanley.
Well, let's talk about Stanley because, this is really, in my opinion, the story of the league right now. Stanley is now 5-0-3. They sit on 15 points, but they have 4 games in hand. So, realistically, Stanley is only 10 points off of first with 4 less games than Plymouth. I'm not saying that they're going to win all of them and get up there, but I thought that my 8th place prediction in our quarterly review show is probably ambitious, but what I saw on Saturday looked like a team that's capable of maybe finishing there.
Well, I can't disagree with you, Phil, and especially I think the EFL agrees with you because they picked 3 Stanley players in the team of the week, and I can't disagree with them with Cameron Burgess, Nottingham, the Sheriff, and John Russell. They all had exceptional games, but I thought John Russell is starting to really shine, and I can see him developing a good working relationship with Pritchard and with Dion Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. Russell got on the board at the second minute on Saturday, and that ended up being all that we needed. Toby Savin, he got another clean sheet. Really only had to make 1 save to do it. Certainly Northampton, they did create a few chances, but, overwhelmingly, this is a game that easily could have been 3-0 to the Stanley. I know for a fact that Dion Charles is kicking himself on at least one header that he didn't get in. So, this was just a really complete performance, and I don't think that 1-0 necessarily tells the whole story of how dominant Stanley was.
No, I agree. And when you're on the road and you get 48% of possession, I think you're happy with that. But the shots, 15 and 5 on target, I know John Coleman, as well as the strike force, want to see that improve because really, you're absolutely right. It should have been 2-3, 3-0. There's probably, if you'd have said 3-0 Accrington, I don't think anybody would have disagreed with that. A good performance. As I say, the only concern I have is really the finishing, and I think that I'm going to put that down to a bit of rust. And now they've got sort of 3 matches under their belt. Maybe that rust will be gone come Tuesday.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is any kind of an excuse in England or not, but the wind and the rain in that game, to me, that had to have affected the finishing. I made a comment on Twitter. I said, folks in Phoenix wouldn't even be outside in this weather, much less playing football.
Well, and I can see your point, but they are used to that, especially playing in Accrington, because, you get into this time of year, you're going to get more rain and wind playing at the Lamb Stadium. Then you're going to get sunshine and clear days. So I think it does affect the play, but I think Stanley overall are probably used to it as good as anybody.
Well, used to it is one thing, but I say going back to that header by Charles, because that was really the very obvious one. with a play like that, does the wind and the rain just, I mean, think about trying to get your head on a football and then redirect it, and your hair is soaking wet, and I'm just wondering how much of a factor that was on that particular ball, at least.
Yeah, true. Weather always has an effect. As I say, it was nasty, and you could see there were players were soaked to the skin. Some players like playing in that, but it does affect the quality of the football and maybe the finishing. But if Stanley can continue on with that style of play, I thought Pritchard was exceptional, and again, as John Russell, the whole team played well, but especially those three that we mentioned. When how often do you see three players from one team on the team of the week? Granted, there was a few teams not playing, but still, you got to give credit to those players.
Well, right, and especially if you see three guys on the team of the week, it usually means it was like a 5-1 game, and those guys were the ones that got the goals. I mean, this is three guys team of the week from a 1-0 win, so that really speaks to. And to me, what's even more encouraging is that they managed to do this without Ross Sykes, who's clearly one of our best guys on the back line. I did never really get any news on why he was out. I am assuming it may be some kind of a minor injury. Did you ever hear why Sykes was out?
No, I haven't confirmed anything, Phil.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye and see if Sykes is in the 11 on tomorrow night's match. But let's run through the other matches. And
by the way, just before we go on to that, I should cover our predictions for that match, what we had for Northampton Stanley.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I had, a 1-1 draw, was it?
Yes, and I had a 2-1 win for Stanley. So it was a win, but only, as we know, 1-0. So I'm only going to take half a point on that.
Half a point, yeah. So yep. That's half a point more than I got.
Okay.
Well, let's jump on to the other 5 matches that happened here, and it was a hard week to pick a surprise of the week, because there was a few that could have gone that way. But to me, my surprise of the week has to be Crew 2-0 over Peterborough United. I mean, the Posh had just been in such a great form, and not even just so much the fact that they won, but completely keeping Peterborough off the board. That's my surprise of the week, Tony.
Yeah, I was going to pick. I can't disagree with that one, because that's one I was going to pick. But I'm going to pick another one so that we can have something different. But
I have a feeling in mind what it might be.
Yeah, but yeah, I got to say, Peterborough were really poor defensively for their standard. Their second goal, again, is, I don't know why players will do this, where they will pass into the center field, facing back to their own goal, pass back into the center of the field blindly, and Crew picked it up, went in and slotted it in for the second goal, and that basically, took, it was just before halftime too, took the winds right out of Peterborough's sail. It's funny, Peterborough, they're going to blow you off the pitch with scoring, or else they seem to fall flat of not scoring, because this is the same result that they had against Accrington. And, Peterborough, to be a team that is to be considered for automatic promotion. And this is not a knock against Crew or Accrington, but teams that like Peterborough should expect themselves to be beating teams that are projected for the lower half of the table. And
I think that might be just the point. Is I think that maybe Peterborough, this is a classic case of a team taking an opponent too lightly. I don't think that they necessarily played poorly on offense. They had 4 out of 10 shots on target, which is that magical 40%. William Jaskalainen for Crew, he really stepped up, made 3 good saves for the clean sheet. But like you were saying, I think that they just kind of took Crew too lightly, didn't really put in the effort on defense, made some mistakes at the midfield, and that's what led to this result.
Yeah, and they conceded a bit more possession to Crew, and full credit to Crew because they were not expected to get a result, and they did so, and that certainly tightened things up at the top of the table with Peterborough losing. And I think we both got that one wrong, Phil. I had a 2-1 win for Peterborough. You had a 3-1 win, and so we were both both off with a 2-0 Crew win. No points there, Phil.
Well, let's move on to one that I'm going to get half a point for, and I think you will too. And that is Fleetwood 4-1 at Bristol Rovers. Our boy Callum Camps had a brace on that. That brings our Callum count on the season up to 7. He has 6 of those 7 now. Paddy Madden and Chet Evans both got on the board, so it really seems like the fishermen are starting to round into form.
Yeah, and your man Camps is obviously making an impact on that team and settling in, and Fleetwood are doing what we expected them to do. I think you had. We both had them a 2-1 win, and it was 4-1. So yeah, you're right. We'll both give ourselves half a point on that one.
All right. Let's take another look here. The next one we have is one where I got it wrong, but I was just taking a long shot here. And that is Hull City 2-0 over Burton Albion at Hull City. And as we talked about in the previous show, Burton Albion was a plus 750 underdog. So I don't think there's any surprise here other than it took for the 62nd minute for Hull to get their first goal.
Yeah, you had a 1-0 prediction for Burton, didn't you? And I actually got this one right. I'm going to give myself a whole point because I had Hull winning 2-0, and that's what we ended up with. So yeah, and again, some of these predictions are waiting late to in the match to get a goal. But it's Hull are a tough team at home, and Burton give a good show for themselves, really hanging in there right till the end. And then once you give up that second goal, 88th minute, you're done. You might as well put the fork in you because you're done.
Well, let's move on to the second to the last match here from Saturday, and I think I got half a point on this one. This was our toilet bowl match of the week. Shrewsbury and Swindon Town at Shrewsbury. It ended up 3-3, and I think really the only surprise here is the amount of goals.
Yeah, I said I couldn't see anybody scoring this one. I said it's just going to end up with 0-0, and you said 1-1, and I said that's way too many goals. And boy, was I off of 6 goals. But if you watch some of the highlights from that, it's a good match for the neutrals, Phil, because good scoring, not really what I would call a defensive gem by any means, but. No, and I think in that particular match, there was a late goal too. If I'm just, it was Swindon came back at 93rd minute.
+3, yeah.
Yeah, and that really is a goal that I obviously give Swindon a point, but also it's not good in my mind for Stanley in the sense that it's given
Shrewsbury?
them. No.
You said okay. Stanley.
What I was going to say is because that gives Swindon a lot of confidence going into the Stanley match.
Oh, yeah. No, I follow what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think that late goal for Swindon is a big boost mentally and something that Stanley didn't want to see. But, it was, as I say, a totally different, not a defensive display in any way, shape, or form, but two teams that I think both teams will be happy with the point on that one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Shrewsbury will be disappointed giving up the late goal, but you do make an excellent point that this gives Swindon some momentum heading into tomorrow's match against Stanley, which we'll talk about in a minute. But then the last one we have here I considered to be my surprise of the week, and I'm going to assume that it was yours, and that was MK Dons pulling off the 2-1 upset against Sunderland at the Stadium of Light.
This. Who would have thought MK Dons was going to go into Sunderland and pull out that win, especially Sunderland got their first goal. Then MK Dons, in my opinion, have got one of the worst logos in the league, but that's beside the point. Sunderland, they came right back with a quick goal, credit to them. And, after 4 minutes, it was 1-1. Then they got that penalty call, and the referee obviously I wasn't sure exactly what he was calling, but he made a decisive call for a penalty, and that was the difference in the match. So when Sunderland needed to get that second goal instead of giving up the tying goal, and then anything can happen from there on.
Well, Tony, they had a goal in the 12th minute from Max Power, and then it looks like they went on to energy saving mode after that.
Well, and
the other thing I was going to say real quick, Tony, is that that referee you were talking about, I noticed his name was Steve Martin, so I guess you could say this game was a comedy of errors for Sunderland.
Well, I think Sunderland might refer to him as the jerk, but I'm not sure if that's the case. But Greg missed a sitter, and really they should have come out of there with a point. But as we say, some of these teams that are wanting to get automatic promotion, you've got to win games at home against teams in the lower regions. Phil, possession. They dominated possession, but to MK Don's credit, they were in that range where they got 4 shots on target out of 9. So, got to give them credit.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise is that we had talked about how bad MK Don's home form had been before this match. And what I'm looking at here, Sunderland allowed 4 of 9 shooting to MK Don's 44%. So that tells me that Sunderland wasn't good enough on defense is probably what the story was of this one. Well,
if you're wanting to get promoted, your home form, you've got to be better than 10th in the table. And MK Dons, that was their first win away, Phil. They'd only got 2 draws up till then. So a lost opportunity for Sunderland for sure.
Yeah, we both picked Sunderland to finish 3rd in the final table in our quarterly preview episode, and I think we're both doubting that a bit already.
Well, they're going to have to pull their socks up if to meet that expectation. But when you look at the top 6, I know not everybody played, but in the top 6 right now, 4 of the top 6 have lost their last match. So that tightens things up, and certainly the teams below gives them hope for a chance to make a move to the playoffs.
Without a doubt, League One is always a crazy race, and it doesn't seem like it's going to disappoint us this year. Like I said, there was realistically 3 games that I looked at and said, well, this could be a surprise of the week. The Swindon and Shrewsbury was more of a surprise just because of the number of goals. But then either this MK Dons at Sunderland, that's certainly a huge upset. Crew over Peterborough, even at Crew, that's a big upset. But let's talk about the big match tomorrow, and that's the makeup game between Accrington and Swindon. And we're not going to go all the way as far in depth with this as we do with the regular Accrington previews, but let's talk a little bit about what we expect. And, certainly, Tony, I think that the expectations have to be high coming off of Saturday.
Definitely. Their away record, which is having a win away at Northampton and then playing away again, the confidence, as you say, is going to be good, is going to be high. After 4 matches away, they got 2 wins, 2 losses. as I say, the concern for me is the goals. The 4, they've only got 4, but given up 5. So I think they're going to have to really convert more of their chances against a Swindon team that really their home record. They've got 10 points and 9 of them are at home. So they've won 3 and only lost 2. So Swindon I don't think it's an automatic when you look at it and think, oh, Stanley's, on the way up where they sit in the league and Swindon where they are. I just don't think it's an automatic slam dunk, to use a basketball term.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Tony. I mean, Stanley, they look good and they're riding high at 5-0-3, but at the end of the day, they've got 10 goals for, 10 goals allowed on the season. Now, the 10 allowed is a nice number, but 10-4, I mean, they're going to need to score more than that. And Swindon, they're not very good on defense. They've let in 21 goals, which is tied for the second most in the league. So, I mean, Swindon could certainly be what the doctor ordered in terms of, what would help Stanley break out of their scoring slump. At the same time, you're going to need to score goals to beat Swindon. This isn't going to be an easy team to get a clean sheet against. They've got 16 goals scored here. And then one thing that really stuck out to me is from their 16 goals, they have 13 assists. So that tells me this is a team that's moving the ball well and plays well on offense. They're just not getting the job done on defense. So, I mean, I think that this is a type of game you're going to need to win at least 2-1 or maybe even 3-2.
Yeah, because they're averaging almost 2 goals per match at home. So you're going to have to shut that down. Defensively, against Shrewsbury, I think Swindon are a little susceptible to set pieces. Shrewsbury scored from 2 corners. They seem to go for their high defenders, get the ball to the high players at the back post. And I think that's something Stanley's going to have to do, is to get to Nottingham or Sykes, whoever starts at the back post. If they can't get the direct header onto the net, look back into the middle for Dion Charles for second ball, because I think they can. I think that's where you set pieces probably could be the difference in this, and Accrington has to take advantage of when they get set pieces and corners.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be an easy game, and if you look at the odds, they really play out against Stanley. Right now, Swindon's plus 135. Stanley is plus 200, so they're really a significant underdog. The draw is going at plus 230. This is certainly a game that they're going against a draw, but when I see something like this, it scares me a bit, because you have one team that's 11th at the table going against a team that's 20th at the table, and the 11th place team is still a 2-1 dog. That tells me that the folks at DraftKings are kind of begging you to bet on Stanley, and I don't like when I see that.
They, Swindon, as I said, have got all 9 out of 10 points at home, so they are tough at home. And I think, again, getting an early goal will be key for Stanley, but not only get that goal, but they need to get more than 1 goal. And I think this is a tough one, because I was initially thinking that we could be looking at the first draw for both teams. But my heart says, I can't go with a draw, because none of the teams haven't drawn yet. So I'm going to go elsewhere on my pick on that one, Phil.
All right. Well, let's get to our picks, Tony. And I'm a guy who is perfectly happy with picking against Stanley and being wrong about it. And, I always want to pick Stanley, but just looking at the numbers, I can't do it. And I'm going to go 2-1 Swindon on this.
2-1 Swindon. I had initially, when I looked at this one, I had this one down as a draw. But the reason I'm not going with that is when you look at both the away record for Accrington and home record for Swindon. There's no draws on the sheets at all. I think Dion Charles is going to start converting his chances. I think, as I said, I think we're going to get a goal from a corner. Dion Charles is going to get one. Russell is playing well. Pritchard, should have had a goal too the other day. So I see some goals in this one. And when I say see some goals, more than normal. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 Stanley win, Phil.
Well, Tony, I think this is getting to be one of my new catchphrases. I hope you're right and I'm wrong on this game.
Yeah, for sure. And there's there was a match that's on this afternoon that I'm going to be able to catch on the television. I'm going to change my prediction on that one because I think I had a 2-1.
Pompey, right?
Yeah, I think I had a Portsmouth 2-1 win over Plymouth. I'm going to go on record before the game is played, and I'm going to put this down because of, like you mentioned, Plymouth's home form. I'm going to go with and Portsmouth. Plymouth are top of the home table. Away table is topped by Portsmouth. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. So that's on record now, Phil.
All right. Well, I'm going to flip my prediction, and I'm going to say that Pompey takes it 2-1.
Okay, so you changed. Okay, that's the score I had.
Well, okay. Hopefully we'll both be right then.
And we've got one other make-up match on Tuesday night. That's Oxford at home to Crewe. Another one that was put off because of COVID. How do you see that one panning out, Phil?
I have to think Oxford is going to take this one. They're on more rest than Crewe is right now. I think that Crewe might have a little letdown after the big win against the Posh, and Oxford just needs to get on track. They're at home. I'll say 2-1 Oxford.
2-1. Okay, I'm going for a 2-0 Oxford win. I agree with what you're saying about Crewe, and their away form is not that great. They've only got one win away. And Oxford are starting to play better. So with the combination of maybe a letdown for Crewe, being on the road, I'll go for 2-0 Oxford win.
All right, Tony. I think we're on pretty much the same page with that one. I had nothing else. Did you have anything else, Tony?
No, I think we've covered everything from the weekend and for the next couple of days. And I'm going to look forward to watching the Plymouth Portsmouth match on the television and catching Stanley tomorrow night too. That's some good football in the next couple of days, Phil.
Absolutely, Tony. And I kind of lied because I do have one other thing I wanted to kind of wrap up with. And I just wanted to say what an amazing and fantastic time it is to be an Accrington Stanley fan. And, I think that sometimes, as Accrington fans, we all know that John Coleman is just a freaking legend. But, I think when you hear things like the Ilias Khan interview a few days ago when he's saying things like, I had to fly into London and write a 400,000 pound check just to keep the team alive. This whole time, John Coleman is, keeping them in the league with all of this going on in the background. And it's just kind of imagine what this guy could do just on a level playing field with anybody else. And I think that's what we're starting to see is that, now that the finances at Accrington have stabilized, the salary cap, we're just seeing how good John Coleman really is if he at least has close to the amount of money to spend that his opponents do.
Yeah, and on that interview, that was a great job that you and Darren did, and it's doing tremendous numbers. One of the fastest listened to podcasts that you guys have done in the history of Across the Pitch. So well done to the both of you and Ilias for a great interview. And I'll tell you, he had me stumped on the quantum computing and I must add the classical music. But just on the Stanley point of view, I think we hear this said before, but this might be the best Stanley team. But I'm starting to see some really quality players on that pitch, and when you get Sangara back, and it's a possibility that we could see McConville for 45 minutes tomorrow. You've got some really good players in that midfield with Russell, Pritchard, and Butcher. And then you've got Uwakwe, you've got McConville, Sangari. And then, like you say, in the back with Sykes out, you didn't miss a beat when Nottingham came in. I think that part of the team that needs to sort of pull up their socks is just the striking force. And I think that will happen. And Mansell there could put some pressure on the existing strikers. So when they start putting the goals, I think they're going to get some more respect around this league because they really can do some damage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with what you're saying in terms of quality. I think that Stanley has always had a lot of guys that are, hard workers or grinders, if you will, and, have certainly had some guys over the years that were talented beyond the league that they were playing in. But I think as a full squad, this is definitely the most quality that you've seen.
Yep. Let's hope for a good result. And again, I hope you're wrong tomorrow, Phil.
I hope I am too. Until then, Tony.
On Stanley. Cheers.
Float posters. Now you can get top quality, high gloss, full color infographics from Afloat Posters featuring all of the clubs from your favorite league, including EFL League One and USL Championship. Afloat Posters also has infographics featuring defunct historic leagues and even new infographics featuring past and present teams from your hometown. You can get 3 different sizes of posters at Afloat Posters starting at just $8.99 US. And now you can save 10% on anything at the website afloatposters.com. Using the promo code ATP10. That's ATP10. Just enter that code at checkout for 10% off at Afloat Posters.